it's an exciting time. And regardless of what happens, number one, for us, it's going to be fun because we're going to have something to talk about. But number two, I personally don't think that, I mean, outside of the team paying the $41 million in the cap hit, outside of that decision, I don't think there's going to be a wrong decision whichever way they go. You know what I mean? If they bring him back, but it's for a reduced rate, I don't have an issue with that because I still feel as the roster stands right now, he gives this team the best chance to win. So I don't have an issue with that if they brought him back on a reduced rate. If they cut ties with him altogether and say, well, look, we're going to use this year as a bridge gap to see, okay, can Mason or Haskins take the job? If not, we're going to draft early in the following year. I don't have an issue with that either. So that's why for me, I'm just kind of like, either way, it's going to work out in the long run for us. One, hopefully we'll have a little bit more success in the short term if Ben were to come back on a reduced rate and live up to the expectations you have for him, right? If he does that, great. We all go off and we're all happy. If he comes back, but it's for the reduced rate and he sucks, cool. It didn't cost us anything. We're all happy. Well, you might not be, but the rest of us, we all happy. But then it's like, okay, if they decide to just say, you know what, we're going to do a hard reset right now, roll with Mason and Haskins in that scenario that I laid out, cool. I'm not tripping on that either because if Haskins can ball out, if Rudolph can ball out, well, we got both of them for a cheap reduced rate anyways. So for me, I just look at this scenario as for the Steelers, as long as you're not paying him 41 or 39 or 40, 30 in that range, as long as you're away from that, I think it's a win for them. So that's why for me, I'm just like, I think that either way it's going to work out, man.
Well, what are you hearing? Where are you leaning on this?
Well, it depends on who I talk to, right?
Oh, you're getting mixed messages.
Yeah. In terms of like, when we talked about my conversation with Ed Bouchette, right? Earlier on, probably this 2.5, 3 weeks ago now, right? Way different mindset in terms of a lot more optimistic about him coming back, but we still highlighted some things that he highlighted. But as a whole, the energy was what? He's more likely coming back. Then I tell you what, a week ago, we talked to Mark Bali. Now you start hearing this like, man, he making it sound like it really could go the other way. And that's why for me, I'm just like, I know how connected these two guys are. We know the reports that they give me, the same reports y'all get. We know what this is, right? But just hearing that's what made me change it a little bit. But now I'm just kind of like, thinking about it some more. And I just think that this is going to be a scenario where as the organization goes, they're going to be fine as long as they're not paying 38, 39, 40, 41 million in terms of the cap hit this year. Now for Ben, it's a little bit of a different situation in terms of how it benefits versus hurts him. And the reason, going back to, Kevin Colbert's comments, even when he spoke on how he would want to go forward, he said, man, I'm going to make sure that we do what's best for the team. And then I'm going to do what's best for Ben. He was very, very particular in terms of his wording, right? The team, the Steelers, then Ben. So hearing that, I'm like, all these scenarios make sense for the Steelers, right? Except the one that makes the most sense for Ben. The one that makes the most sense for Ben is what? Him coming back as close to 19 million per year. But that doesn't help out the team. So knowing that, that's what makes me still keep going back to this. Why I think that, yeah, it could realistically happen where he goes somewhere else. Because I'm telling you, like, it's hard to tell a guy that's supposed to get 19 that we already feel is middle of the pack from a pay standpoint to take less. That's tough to do, man. It's very tough to do. But because of the cap situation, that's what makes it unique. Now we're going to see, like I said, with Ben. Ben is the only person that can answer that question in terms of how much he really wants to go out as a Steeler. How much he really, because we've seen it, like I talked about with Hines. We've seen it with the more decorated player in Troy. We've seen how they handle those situations. It wasn't pretty at the end. And at times it was uncomfortable. Even if you were on the roster, trust me, being on that roster at the end of the whole thing, it kind of got a little weird. You're like, this the move. I get why you're doing it. We don't like the move, but we got to accept it because we know from a money standpoint. So seeing them do that before already in two examples, I just don't feel like this is going to be any different. I think that they're trying to make it as peaceful for Ben as possible, or let him feel like he's in control as much as possible. But in the end, we know how this goes. If he is not going to take less than a certain number, man, they're going to treat you like that horse that got hurt at the Derby. Going to take you around back, pat you real nice on the back, give you a little Scooby snack and put him on down. I hope it don't come to that for you though, baby. Because if it do, I'm just coming with the box of tissues and the comfort food, and we're going to have a little powwow therapy session, man.
We might need to take a week off or something.
I'm in mourning.
Nah, I can't imagine it. So We don't have any news like that yet. It's just, I guess, still more of the speculation.
Because, and like I said, the biggest thing was this, right? Colbert has laid out his side. Mr. Rooney has laid out his side. Ben had his rebuttal in between those two, but we're still waiting on Ben's response now. It was like I said, Mr. Rooney sent the ball to Ben. Ben sent the ball back. All right, Kevin Colbert sent the ball back to Ben. Now we got to wait to hear what Ben says. That's going to be the big thing. And that's why, it's easy to speculate around it because you can see the three scenarios. It's very clear in terms of what they can do. You either allow them to play 40-41. Okay, team already said that's not an option anymore. Okay, bam, now we're down to two options. Come back at a reduced rate or you're hitting the market. So now that goes back to Ben. So that's why we're all just sitting here just kind of waiting on him. But we can see just how crazy either of those scenarios are, right? And how it can be so impactful, not just for Ben, but for the team. We're going to go in a second and talk about some of the potential cut candidates that the team has because of this scenario, right? In terms of how we have to make this work. So we can just see the ramifications with either decision that is made, how it's going to impact the roster both now and more than likely the next 2 to 3 years.
Yeah. And I guess the first one was not a cut, but in terms of restructuring these contracts was Cam Heyward today. They're talking about Tua. They're also talking about Boswell and Derek Watt. So, if they do all those four, where does that leave us cap-wise without even some of these cuts?
Yeah, so this is the thing. You have to remember, we're already starting in the negative.
What are we at right now with the Cam? Isn't it minus 20?
Yeah.
After the Cam?
It should, and from my understanding, it should be a little bit less than minus 20 now because remember the 5 that we got the extra $5 million from it was supposed to be 175, went to 180 or whatever, right?
Yep.
So you got that extra, and then obviously you have the restructure, so that does help a lot. But you're still going to have to restructure multiple guys or release multiple guys. But remember the issue with the restructuring, it doesn't make the cap number go away. It just pushes it down the line. So remember with Ben's cap number would be $0 right now because he haven't been paid anything. But the problem is he has 22.5 because they've pushed the can down the line multiple times already. So that's the only thing that gets dangerous when you start doing multiple restructures because those bills will come due. And if they come due, say a year from now, where you're having to do the full rebuild, no Ben, but you don't have the money to go out there and get a veteran to give you that bridge, it can get real nasty. So that's what you got to be careful with.
I was looking at Cam's. I don't know if they updated it this quickly, but from what it looked like, it was if you cut him in the next year or two, that's bad. But you could, I think the last year on his contract, if you did that, it's not as bad of the dead money and cap hit type of thing.
Yeah, but either way,
I guess they're assuming all right, we'll at least have Cam for maybe a year or two more. Yeah,
but either way, the savings in terms of cutting Cam compared to the whole Ben situation is still far off. You know what I mean? But just because of the cap hit with Ben right now. That's the big difference.
That's what I'm saying. For the next, I think, year or two after the year coming up. I think it's his last year. I think that's how they structure it. From what I looked at least. I could be wrong on that.
Well, for me, I was waiting to see with the restructure details come out, what that's going to tell us, because everybody's a little different with it. For the players, it doesn't hurt them because you're just getting your money guaranteed for the season. They just take whatever your annual salary is going to be, make it into a bonus.
And honestly, I'm sure they'd find some way to restructure it again too if it wasn't in their favor.
You always keep restructuring. Trust me, as a player, you welcome the restructure because, like I said, it just guarantees your money for the year. People always making it, oh man, he's such an admirable guy. I love this restructure guy. He's a good guy. And it's well, actually, it's more so it benefits him in the short term.
I did see some of that. Cam,
absolutely.
Team leader, way to go.
Yeah, you're no, it just guaranteed his money now, and it puts the bill on the back end. You know what I mean? Pay for it with the credit card. That's what we're doing right now. We're just going to give you this credit card check. All right, I'm paying you, but we're not really going to move real money just yet. Now, the bill's going to come due, but hopefully we good for right now. Hopefully by the time that bill come due, we didn't got hit with another check somewhere else, and we could rob Peter to pay Paul that way. That's what they do. That's what you have to do when it's a salary cap league, though. This isn't new. We just happen to have a really good guy here in Omar in terms of him being able to move the numbers and make them work the way that they do. We saw it a year ago. Think about the past 5 years. I feel like we're always having these conversations, right? How are we going to make the numbers work? Can we get a player like this? We always have a surprise release, a surprise restructure. And then from there, you just go out there and hope for the best. So this is no different than that. The only reason why it's a lot more, odds on is because Ben is involved in it now. Typically, Ben isn't involved in these conversations because his play usually puts him above reproach. It usually puts him above these conversations where you're talking about productivity versus cap hit. Obviously, this year it took a step back. So now we have to have these conversations. And that's just what it is. That's why it's a lot more eyes on it. But this is normal protocol, man. Hey, it gets crazy. And I look at Omar as that little, the little gif where the little dog is sitting on the chair in the kitchen, the whole house is on fire. He's like, oh yeah, it's fine. It's fine. That's Omar. In the middle of this chaos. Oh, -20 in the red. Oh, you're this much in the red. Okay, cool. Oh, it's fine. Don't worry about it. I got this. He can rub his head like this one time. All right, we'll restructure him, cut him. All right, sign him. We're good to go. And that's how he roll with it, man.
Like, honestly, if they do some of these restructures similar to how Cam, I know Tuitt probably has the most similar contract. Dude, does that clear up another 6 or 7? And then what does Boz do? Is that $1 million or $2 million? Derek Watt, $1 million or $2 million? That gets
you got some options.
That gets you within maybe single digits right there without even some of these releases.
But then you have the bigger issue of replacing the talent that's going to be leaving. That is this. Bud Dupree, unrestricted free agent. He's going to be gone more than likely. So you're going to have to bring in an extra rusher, right? You're not just going out there with TJ and Alex Highsmith. It's not happening. Inside linebacker, Vince Williams is a guy that they said potentially you're either looking to restructure or release. Who else you got inside? Avery Williamson's an unrestricted free agent. So you're going to have to figure out who you're going to do business with, how you want to roll with that. Robert Spillane is a restricted free agent, so you still can more than likely get him here for a lower price, but you still got to pay a little bit, right? If you tender him as a second round tender, it's going to still be around $2 million, right? All those little crumbs add up. Then offensive line, Al Villanueva. That's your left tackle, right? Unrestricted free agent. Regardless of how you want to replace him.
I was going to say, I think that's addition by subtraction.
But regardless of how you want to replace him, you still got to replace him. Oh, we go to Matt Fowler. Matt Fowler, unrestricted free agent. How are you going to handle that? Then we go to the defense. You got Mike Hilton, unrestricted free agent. Tyson Alualu, unrestricted free agent. Zach Banner, who reports have said that they're going to look to put him at left tackle, unrestricted free agent as well. Then we go down the line. Juju, we already talked about him. Sean Davis, we talked about him a little bit as the backup. Jordan Berry, that's your punter, unrestricted free agent. Chris Wormley was a rotational D tackle, was in that group, right? Unrestricted free agent. Cam Sutton, the other guy, right? You got Mike Hilton and Cam Sutton, unrestricted free agent. James Conner, so it's like, even with these restrictions, and that's just going to get you into the green, you still got to replace this talent or at least do business with these guys and get them to come back. That to me is why it's bigger than just, oh, we'll just restructure these guys and then we can still roll with Ben at the 19. It doesn't work like that because the restructuring is just going to get you in compliance. That still doesn't replace any of these. And trust me, there's still more names here. Ray McLeod, that was the return man that gave life to special teams. Unrestricted, or he's a restricted free agent, so you can get him back for cheap, but you still got to compensate him, right? Jordan Dangerfield, special teams captain, big 4. It's another guy, unrestricted. Marcus Allen, exclusive rights. So, like I said, you should be able to get him back for a lot cheaper, but that's still somebody that you're going to have to do business with. JC Hassener, that's no, because some people, right, when they talk about Pouncey, I've heard plenty of people speak very highly of JC. All right, I'm just letting you know.
Come on.
Okay, the same. So look, funny thing is this, right? The way you laugh about JC is how people laugh about Ben. No exaggeration. I'm just throwing it out there. So but either way, all right, either way, just because of name recognition, we're talking about 2020. We're not talking about legacy. We're talking about what we saw this year. That's all I'm saying.
No,
baby.
But like we've said, it's very 50-50. I mean, there may be people that say that, but there's a lot of people like me that think he still had a really solid year.
I don't think it's a lot of people like you. I think it's like a diehard group of you, though. Like I feel like y'all are more passionate than the rest of us, but I don't think it's a lot of y'all though. I think it's like a.
No, I actually do think there's a certain portion of people that maybe they're not as diehard. They're just like assuming why wouldn't we have Ben back though?
Right.
They're not as into like the cap type of shit.
Right.
Like to just mention like I was over my neighbor's house. So like why that Ben's back? Obviously, like there's a lot of people that are just like Ben's back.
Because if you could take the money away you could take the money out of it. Sure, he is the best option at quarterback as the roster stands right now. But when you factor in the cap, and that's what makes the NFL different than collegiate ball. You know, it makes it different than high school ball. You have to factor in the business side. We can't just say, oh, he's the best player. We like him. He's been here forever. Just throw him one out there. No, that's not how it works. So that's the biggest reason why it's not a foregone thing. And for most people that look at Ben the way that a lot of people do look at him, they're saying to ourselves, man, he's not worth $41 million cap hit. He's not worth anything close to that cap hit. And if he's not willing to play ball, you got to go in a different direction because we know what this is going to look like. A lot of, and I know you got Big Ben believers. I'm with you on that. But still a large amount of people that feel that even if he comes back, this isn't going to be a Super Bowl winning team. So if you're not going to win a Super Bowl with him and you already know you're just going to put yourself in a further hole from a roster standpoint, why allow yourself to go down there for the sake of what? A last ride so you can wave at fans? That's not good business.
Well, no, some of those names. I mean, we do have some cornerbacks in waiting as well.
Okay.
Justin Lane. Can you bring Cam Sutton back and maybe take on that Mike Hilton role? This Pierre dude, people are talking about. Like,
well, Pierre played in that last game, that wild card game. He got the opportunity. He got I mean, watching him, I'm gonna have to go back and really, really watch him a lot better. But for the most part, he was doing fine over there. I don't understand why they went him over Lane, but it's a little different.
And just in terms of money and talking about some of these cornerbacks, like maybe it wouldn't be as bad of a drop off, or maybe even much, especially going from last year to the next year. Just natural development happens with some of these young players, and then Joe Hayden, Steven Nelson, they're getting up there a little bit. So that I think those are fair questions as well.
Fair enough.
But, I'm not saying I want to get rid of Joe Hayden or Steven Nelson, but I'm just saying next year, if you want to talk about value and stuff, then I think that could be just as much in play as well as any type of player we're talking about.
See, for me, I think that still is a minor move. I don't think that is going to sway you either way. The Ben move can either make you or break you for the next year to 2 years. That's how I look at it. So, yeah, you could do the whole thing of, all right, we'll go the cheat route. We'll get rid of Joe. We'll play games with Steven and see if we can get out here with Pierre and Justin Lane. And if it doesn't work, we already seen what it looked like when you had those pieces, right? And when Ben wasn't able to elevate the whole team above all of the nonsense, right? Above the shortcomings here, above the shortcomings there. He wasn't already able to do that. Now you're going to take more talent away and ask Ben to do even more. I personally don't see that happening right now.
Are you sure that's asking him to do more?
It definitely will be asking him to do more.
Devin Bush coming back too?
It definitely is going to be asking him to do more. Without a doubt, it will. We saw last year, it
but
was
that's
asking
even
him
just
to do
defense.
more.
I'm saying if we improve the offense, I think that's a whole different game. If the defense is maybe a little bit less.
But we had this conversation. How are you doing it? Money-wise, you don't have that type of money. We already said that.
But if we're making some of those moves, the cap clears up.
All right. But you still have to replace those guys that you're making the moves with. Not just from a dollar standpoint, from a talent standpoint. Just because I could fill you in as a linebacker and pay you, $4 million less than Vince doesn't mean you're going to go out there and give me Vince Williams productivity. It just means you're a cheap fill-in. That's it. That's not going to be more productivity. And if I'm on offense, that means I'm going to have to do more to pick up the slack because you're not going to be able to make the stops to get us off the field. So you could just see how it's not as simple of cut this guy, bring in this guy, let him fill in, hope for the best. That's not going to benefit Ben. Ben is going to need solid, not even solid. He's going to need really good defense, really good running game, weapons. That's what he's going to need. He's not at the stage where he could just go out there with whoever and just make everybody around him elevate. That's not him right now.
But that's anyone.
Okay, I'm with you on that. But not everybody has a $41 million cap hit either. So you see the issue once again.
But I'm just assuming he's going to restructure unless you're dead certain he's not restructuring at all.
I'm with you on restructuring. All I'm simply saying is to what number? We've already broke down the math on at 19 where he's paid amongst the guys in the league. So if we're not talking about him being in the single digits, 10, 9, 8 for this year, then to me it's too much. And that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't believe that it's some foregone conclusion that Ben is willing to take less than that to come back next year. And personally, I already said, I don't think that he should. I think that he's good enough to get paid $19 million, good enough to get paid $20 million. But not good enough to have a $41 million cap hit. That's the difference. He could go get $20 million, like I said, on any other team, and his cap hit would not be $41 million. And it would be all be over here like, that's great business. That's how you're supposed to do it. Pay that man. He deserves it. But when you're talking about Ben having a $41 million cap hit just to make $19 million, that's not good business for the Steelers. It's not.
I get it. I mean, that's another question, though. Whose fault is it that it is at $41 million?
Both.
Yeah, I mean...
It's both. It's simple. Ben could have said no to all the restructures. Ben could have said no when he was negotiating contract. We talked about Brady. I'm not telling him that that's what he should do, but he could do that. And then on the Steelers, they could have been played hardball before, right? They could have said, well, look, we're not restructuring you. Look, we're not going to do this. Look, we're not going to add this in the contract. Both parties are at fault here. It is what it is. That's what happens when you get a franchise quarterback. You get an organization that believes in him and they stick together for so long. It happens.
But here's my thing, though. If we're talking about he's got a bunch of that money already guaranteed up front, so it's $19 million right now. So he's taking, what, $10 million less than what the whole contract would be? Is that right? So let's say, I don't know the numbers. Let's say the whole contract was $120 million.
Okay, yeah.
If he does whatever restructure, from that contract, what he's seeing is $110 million.
Sure.
Is that it?
Basically, yeah.
Okay, so that makes me think maybe he's more than willing to do it. We'll see, though.
Well, I mean, if that's the case, then why did he sign the big extension 3 years ago? Because he had already seen over $100 million before that contract extension as well.
What do you mean?
You just said, right? Oh, he would still get the 110 over the duration. So, I mean, that's not that bad compared to 120, right? That was you were getting at.
That's not, yeah.
Right. But my rebuttal to you was, well, why did Ben sign this deal that was going to pay him this much, knowing that the cap would get to this when he had already seen $100 million throughout his career before he did the extension?
Yes, he didn't know the cap would get to this because the cap went down a bunch because of this COVID stuff. Wasn't it supposed to be $200 million?
But we still knew his cap number was still going to be going. We all knew that was never up in debate.
With the restructures, yeah.
True, but we knew that was going to happen. That's not a surprise. I mean, the surprise was just how low the cap went in terms of it, not increasing to where we thought it would increase to, but the cap number was going to always be there. So that's the thing. It's like that wasn't a surprise. We all knew that.
We had like what, 20 million with AB's dead money too?
Okay, yeah.
I mean, there was a lot of things there. We did want to do some of these restructures, not just Ben. I'm sure we did some in the past that I don't have off the top of my head. We're trying to put out a contender at the time, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It is what it is.
Yeah. So now those bills are due. So the same way you just said, it is what it is. If Ben gets cut, it is what it is. It's business. He's still going to go get paid somewhere else, but that's the situation. Because like I said numerous times up here, right? I don't feel like Ben should take less than 19. I don't. I feel like he's still in that 20 to 25 range. I do. But he's not in a $41 million cap hit range. He's not in a high 30s cap hit range. He's not. When I think of those guys, Mahomes.
I don't know. What if he just doesn't care about that? That's my thing. Like, why does that matter so much?
All I said is we're going to see.
Like I said, throughout the whole contract, 120 versus 110.
We'll see. You should call him up and tell him that then. You should. Trust me, Kevin Colbert's saying the same thing. Ben, come on, man. You already had your 121. Just take $2 million, go about your business, right? I mean, what's the difference between 110 and 108? Or no. Actually, we'll take it down even further. We'll make 102. Just make 102. You can make 102.
I think the extension works for everyone.
Nah,
hopefully, but like you said, I don't know. I don't know what Colbert and the Steelers organization is thinking.
The extension works for it works for Ben. It doesn't work for everyone because if they extend,
I think it can.
So this is my thing. You do the extension, right? Ben, we've already said hasn't given you any indication that he's going to retire after this year, correct? Zero indication.
No.
The Steelers have made it clear. When you listen to them speak, is very much this is like final. Like, oh, one last time. Every time you hear how they wording it, it's not speaking of we're looking to see him 2 years from now, 3 years from now. No. The way they speak, it sounds very much as if he already played his last game or this will be his last season. That's the tone that they've given it. So with that, an extension doesn't help them. Extension puts you right back in the exact same scenario next year. If Ben comes out here, starts fast, ends kind of shaky, and now we're over here like, well, how do you evaluate him? Is he really good or has he fallen off? Is he worth this or is he not? And then because he's under contract, well, shoot, he gonna hit you with I just want to honor my contract. I just want to fill my contract. That's it. And now we got to see, okay, well, are we going to cut him or are you going to trade him? Well, you can't trade him because the cap hit. All right, so are you going to cut him or are you going to extend him again? That's not good business. It's not. That's being held hostage by a great player that, you have the nostalgia for, you have the legacy piece with, the emotional equity, but it's not in the current. He's not currently producing to that level. That's where it gets a little sticky. That's the problem when you have these type of scenarios right here, man. The heart is telling us one thing, but the business element gives you the clear answer. But because of our hearts, you don't want to listen to the business element.
So what do you think of these potential restructures coming up with Tuitt, Boswell, Derek Watt, some of these cuts that are in this article?
Yeah.
What are you thinking on that? Ranking in order of importance, what they could do, how would you go about it?
So the names that were listed in the article, obviously Big Ben was number one. Then from there, they had DeCastro. Then after DeCastro, they went Steven Nelson, Joe Hayden, and then last it was Vince Williams. To me, I think they have a really good order. You got to go. The business element makes perfect sense. You go Ben, and then from there, you either bring in a veteran that can give you a bridge option at quarterback, or you ride with Mason or Dwayne Haskins, see what they can give you this year. If it's great. You got them both cheap. Go on, keep building up your roster the way it is in the new model, right? Rookie quarterback or rookie contract quarterback, build up the roster around them. That's one option, right? And you're fine with that. Okay, but if you don't want to cut Ben, now we get sticky because it's not just restructure that guy, and you're fine. No, you're going to have to start cutting people. That's where it gets different. So now if we're talking about, cutting a DeCastro, we've already lost a penalty. You're potentially going to lose Allen free agency. Those are three stalwarts, right? Not saying that they were still playing at that level anymore, but those are still three quality stars that you're going to have to get rid of or that you're going to have to replace. And you're not going to have a ton of money to do it. That's why you're doing the cutting phase, right? You're going through the chop block, right? Because you want to keep Ben and keep him happy at a good, substantial pay grade. Okay, cool. So now those three pieces you got to fix. You already said, okay, Juju, you're not going to have enough money for that no more. You're not going to have enough money to bring a James Conner back. Some people didn't even want him back. So either way, cool. But you're going to have to replace running back. Now, I know you said the draft, right? Oh, yeah, get Najee Harris. Okay, cool. Got Najee. Still didn't fix 3 holes at offensive line. You're not going to be able to go to free agency and pay some guy to come in here and start at center, guard, and tackle. So we already got flaws up front. Can't get protected. We already know Ben isn't as mobile as he used to be either. So we already know. How is he going to play better with less protection? We already said he was throwing faster, right? That was the whole, if you want to believe that Ben still has it, is he was throwing faster because of the O-line. If you want to believe that Ben doesn't have it, he was throwing fast because he couldn't get the ball 30 yards downfield. Whichever way you want to believe it, that O-line is going to be taking a step back if you're not replacing those 3 guys with higher quality talent. That's just flat out.
Are we sure about that?
I'm very sure about that.
I thought we were like bottom 5 in the league as it was.
Okay. And that's with those guys. So you're going to put Dotson in there. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I like that.
Okay. So who's your center? Who's your guard? Who's your left tackle? It's that simple.
May not be the worst idea to pick that in the first round. I know I like Harris a lot.
Okay. So what's your answer at running back then? You going to have Ben throwing it 60 times again?
Maybe you select a guy in the second or third round. Javonte Williams, people are talking about. I like him too. Yeah.
Okay. Where's your center and your other guard? You still haven't replaced that. You still haven't replaced your left tackle yet.
Well, left tackle, if they're going to bring Banner back, we got guard Dotson, guard Fowler. I know those contracts might be around $2 or $3 million. Are they going to be exorbitant contracts, do you think? Like Matt Fowler?
I think Matt could get paid on the open market. We saw Chris Hubbard get paid with way less starting experience. Matt has proven to be a starter at right tackle and left guard. Yes, he's going to get some money. Yes.
All right, we'll see on that. Yeah, maybe I'm completely wrong. It's kind of that simple.
No, he's definitely going to get some money. I can show you can get a lot more on the open market than he could right here with Pittsburgh. That's just from my perspective. As the contract stands today, with Ben still getting it closer to that 41, right? Because we're trying to put the scenario where Ben can still get where he's supposed to be compensated, right? Those are the pieces you're missing now. So the line that we already said was bottom 5, right? Or struggled throughout the season is going to be even worse, right? Because you're not even going to have the talented piece that you put out there, right? You're not even having that anymore. You laughed at the JC Hassaner, right? JC becomes your starter. And then a guy like JC becomes your starter at right guard. And then even though Banner, shout out to Banner, came on the show, and we hope that he could show up and stand up and be a guy at left tackle. A lot of people looking at him like a JC at left tackle, though. We don't know what that looks like. We haven't seen that. Have we? What have we seen outside of, us having conversations that have really made us say, oh, he can do? We didn't even see him.
He does have high upside, but yes, you're right.
But when did we see this year?
Clue.
We literally saw 3 quarters and he got hurt. So we don't even know if he could do it at right tackle for 16 games. Now you see how this scenario works out, how you're putting Ben more so in harm's way and asking him to do more. I don't see that working, man.
I don't know. Like, honestly, some of those pieces you talk about, though, with Villanueva, DeCastro, and Pouncey, dude, I don't think they play that good. So, It could be rookies. It could be draft picks. A 5th round, 4th round pick. They could probably play better.
I just like how when it comes to them, I don't think they play that good. When it comes to Ben, Ben threw for 500 yards in this wild card game. Look at Ben's numbers versus Aaron Rodgers. Look at this. Look at that. You can say
we could disagree with that. That's fine.
People are saying the same things about Al. Al is still going to, if Al wants to play, Al can still go get paid on the open market right now. And I guarantee you it will surprise all of us the amount. So for as bad as you think he played, and as bad as I personally feel that he played for his standards, he's still a quality player in this league. That's all I'm saying. He's not to where he used to be, but a team is going to pay him if he chooses that route. He can retire if he wants to, but if he chooses to hit the open market, you're going to see he's still going to get paid. So that's all I'm trying to help you understand, that as much as you making it like, oh man, Al, throw him in the trash, we get somebody else in there. Okay. But just know what Al is, they get paid. So for you to go less than that, the cheaper route than that, and we already are complaining about what he was giving us, just know what you're about to set yourself up for. That's all I'm saying, man.
That's fair. It's just different roster construction now. All right. Whether you think mine's going down the toilet or not.
Definitely going down the toilet, man.
Sure, but I don't know.
If you think Ben is enough, that similar situation we had 2 years ago with Brady in New England, and how we said, man, he don't really have a lot of time. It's a bad situation. We said Russell and Seahawks, right? We were like, man, the reason why I personally felt at the time Russ was the better guy, because I said, man, Russ is doing this with no O-line, running for his life, the most sacked quarterback, and he still produces at a high level. We said Brady isn't as mobile. If Brady's not protected, it's not going to look as good. We saw him that last year in New England. A lot of people questioned if he still had it. Put him in a situation where he had all the weapons around him. He looked good. Ben is the same way. If you put Ben on this roster next year with no talent around him, he is going to struggle. If you can get Ben in a situation where it's like Brady with the Bucs, Ben should flourish. But Ben can't get that scenario here with the way the money is set up. That's the big thing. It's not an issue of saying, hey, if Ben gets cut, that means that he's done. No, we're just saying as it pertains to the business here, it doesn't work like that. Because there's no way you bring him back and still have enough pieces around him for him to have his play be elevated as well. If you put Ben out there with the piece that we're talking about not being there and ask him to do more, he's not going to be able to do that. It's going to look very much like the back half of the season. It's going to look like Brady when he finished up that last year in New England. A lot of people looking at him sideways. A lot of people second guessing and asking, man, maybe he don't have it anymore. I don't want your boy to go out like that. I'm telling you, he goes somewhere else though, where they got pieces around him. He will look good. He will make you the happiest man out there. We know this.
Listen, if we bring him back and maybe we're not able to bring him the amount of talent that you're talking about back, whatever it is, if we go more my roster construction, if we go that route, and it's a failure, I will say you were completely right. I was completely wrong. I will say that. But I don't know. I'd rather take my chance with how I'd want to do things. That's all.
I mean, cool. If you want to lose what you got, lose what you got. I ain't tripping on it. Like I said, I'm going to have fun regardless because I'm going to be up here every week the same way when I saw you when you was going through the whole Duck sadness, Mason sadness. I have to come in here and patch on you back and get you through the moments. I'm going to be here regardless, baby. So if we want to roll with Ben and he stinks it up and we come in here every week and we reading questions about how much he's, falling off, cool. I'm not tripping. If he goes somewhere else and he's lighting it up over there, cool. We're going to come in and talk about him lighting it up over there. Either way, don't matter to me, man.